I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast.
It can damage your culture, reduce your respect, and also just really hinders results. It makes you pick sides instead of going, this is our line. I used to feel like a teachable moment was me downloading information to you. Now I look at it as I need to ask you a question to get you to think.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. I have today Miss Glyn with me. How are you, babe?
I'm great.
Good. You ready to rock socks?
Socks, yes.
I don't have socks on, so all right. It's kind of like the newscaster that sits at their desk, and they have the dress shirt and the tie, and they stand up and they're wearing like their shorts.
See, we relate to that. We relate to that, but most people, we need that you just showed your age.
Hey.
Because most people actually that go, oh, you mean like Zoom calls? When they're dressed up from the waist up.
Dressed up from the waist up, and they got their summer shorts on underneath. And it's
or
like
sweats and pajamas.
Or pajamas, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, today we're going to talk something a little counterintuitive, I think. It's when nice leadership, nice as in be nice, leadership hurts your culture.
Yeah, and I think, we say, we teach our little dragons, to say courtesy, be nice. And so it seems like, why would we say that that's not a great thing? Well, let's define terms. Nice, a dictionary definition of nice is being pleasant, agreeable, or satisfactory. Well, that sounds really great. Why would we not want to do that?
But when we are leaders and we're only doing that to be liked, just being agreeable and not holding boundaries, that's a problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely is. It can damage your culture, reduce your respect, and also, just really hinders results.
Right. And now we're not talking about being like rawr and going after people at all, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
That's why I think it's a little counterintuitive. Is like, we're not saying not to be nice, but don't just be nice to get along, right? Sometimes we have to put a foot down, right?
And that's the part. That's the thing. Whenever you're just, it's kind of like that, like with your kids. Go ask your dad. Go ask your mom. Go ask your dad.
Right.
Go ask your mom. And you're like, okay, one of y'all, please just tell me.
Make a decision.
Or whenever it's the go ask your dad and they're like, never mind. Well, then you're the pushover.
That's right. And you're going, go ask the other one. I'm going, go ask your mom, because I don't want to be the bad guy. I want to be nice right now. So in this episode, we're going to talk about why tough leadership done with integrity beats fake kindness, right? Being liked is your goal, your culture will pay a price. So what's the trap?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
And it falls into that be personable, not personal.
Yes.
And it kind of delineates this little line that it doesn't, you know where your leader stands.
Right.
You know what the culture is, what's okay, because whenever you start to just base things off of, this is going to hurt their feelings.
Right.
Well, then all of a sudden I've forgotten that there's probably somebody on the other side of that, their feelings were hurt too. But now I'm going with, it makes you pick sides instead of going, this is our line.
Well, and I think it's important to say here, when you have very clear principles, expectations, vision, boundaries already, it actually makes this a little easier, right? Because you can lean into that and go, hey, here is this rule for this area, and you stepped outside that boundary. And so in that moment, you don't have to be quote unquote nice. You have to be firm and you have to be strong.
Yeah. And just stick to, we talk a whole lot about just stick to what is right, what the, and it's not just about following the rules, because some people, hear that and just go, oh. And that's not a bad thing. You have set, theoretically, those boundaries in a period where you're not having somebody butting up against them, and they're there to protect the greater good of whole organization.
Absolutely. And I think, people could, I don't know about in our business particularly, but people could walk into a business and go, man, these people are just always so nice, always so nice, always so nice. But let me remind you, one of our teaching tactics that we teach with our instructors and our leadership team is public praise private reprimand.
That's right.
And so, again, private, if I was being kind of the counter of nice and just being mean, I would just publicly shame you, right?
Right.
But many times you go into a place and it's like they're just always so kind. They must just be so kind, and just it's because they're privately making corrections, I think. You know what I mean? And so that can be misleading. And if we're not making corrections, people are going to be testing boundaries, and there's going to be complacency, and I can do what I want. They won't do anything about it, right? So
I love the phrase, clarity is kindness. It's not clarity is
Love it.
nice. It's clarity is kindness, because then you know what is expected.
Right.
And there's no when a deviation does happen, because they will, when a deviation does happen, then okay, this is the consequence, and it all goes together.
Right.
You have that consequence. You have to follow through with it.
Absolutely, either that or run and hide from it. One of the two. So something I think you can ask yourself at this point is, am I avoiding hard conversations to be liked? Not avoiding hard conversations because it's not the right time or the right place, but avoiding hard conversations because you just want people to like you.
I want them to like me, know. And the thing, I think that is when we're all completely honest, we all struggle with that. We struggle with the praise of man. We absolutely do. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't, think of all of the little phrases. We don't want to ruffle feathers, rock the boat,
Right.
There's all these things, because that is, time and time again, that's what we all struggle with.
Let's think about this for a second. Being respected is not exactly equal to being liked, right? Likable is just, again, that kind of I just kind of think of a spineless pushover, just nice all the time, and doesn't have the willingness.
You become all of a sudden taken advantage of. All of a sudden you have people calling into work 30 minutes before their shift begins, and they're sick, or they can't come because their dog ate the cat's homework, kind of thing, and all of a sudden there's no, the accountability just falls through like,
right.
It's not
Absolutely.
a crack. It's like a hole in the bucket. And, you lose that, there's no, the expectations just make everything game.
Absolutely. Well, tough conversations, clear expectations, and consistency are what build respect. And respect is a type of like, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're synonymous in ways, but then yet they're not in ways. And so, being willing to have a tough conversation. And I think another way to think about this too is, it's like tough love. I'm telling you no, and you really want to do it, and it breaks my heart to tell you no, but I'm telling you no because I understand the bigger picture and the bigger good, and I don't want you to suffer the results of me just being a lay down and saying, sure, do what you want to do, right? So
and I don't want to get us into a segue or a rabbit trail at all, but it's kind of on that same concept of niceness. I don't lock my doors to my house because I don't like the people outside. I lock the doors to my house because I love the people inside. And that niceness, whenever that is just your goal, is to be nice, it makes it really hard to justify locking your doors.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're letting things inside your house that you do not want, that are absolutely toxic and detrimental to your culture.
And only because you just need to be liked or want to be liked, right?
Yeah. and the thing is, it sounds, we're coming at this like, oh yeah, we've got this all figured out. And there have absolutely been, I mean, so many times that it's been like, okay, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to give them,
right.
And you're going, okay, I'm going to see you with a 10. We talk about all these things, but it's sometimes you're,
right.
That little nice nudges in there and goes, give them the benefit of the doubt. Assume
right.
that they meant the best, and then you don't ever have the, hey, just, it can be, it doesn't have to be like this major confrontation. It's just like, hey, what was going on there? And they tell you, and you go, okay, well, I probably would have done it this way,
right.
or whatever. You don't have even the not tough conversations,
Absolutely.
just those small ones.
And even in that, sometimes and I love what you did there, because that's typically how we handle these things. We don't just go, hey, what were you doing? We walk in and we say something like, it's praise, correct praise. We walk in and we go, man, I love the way that class was going, but there was a point here. What was happening here? What were y'all thinking, or what were you working on in this section?
Yep.
And what happens is a lot of times you'll even see a light bulb go off right there, and they go, oh, because they're now thinking through it, right? So tough conversations don't have to be super tough if you approach them right. It's like if I walk up to you and I say, you idiot, that was wrong. I just made a tough conversation.
Yeah, and I have to say, we've talked a lot about, teachable moments, and I used to feel like a teachable moment was me downloading information to you.
Right.
Now I look at it as I need to ask you a question to get you to think. Because if I'm just going, you need to do A, B, C, and subset 1, 2, 3, they're not going to remember any of that. But if I go, hey, what were you thinking here? And flip that into a question.
Absolutely.
It completely changes and obviously sometimes it's like hey, I need you to do boom, boom, boom. But then whenever you're giving feedback and you're really training, you need to go, hey, what were you thinking on this? Or, flip it into a question.
Well, and when you're leading a younger team too, you're helping them to problem solve and kind of think through things, right? I mean, it's exactly what you're saying, but I love that. So we almost always, if I need to make a correction, unless it's just emergent or bad situation, which is super rare, I lead with questions. And the thing to think about, if you're a control freak, and I kind of am, I like to know what's going on and be in control.
I'm not.
Okay, Jesus, don't strike lightning over here. I'm really close to her right now. So anyway.
Stay back.
Yeah. Asking questions again, it allows them to kind of think through it, and but we're also modeling for them how to solve problems and how to correct moving forward. So
and how to do the self-reflecting, how to go, was I, because it's real easy in a busy cycle, in a busy time, in a busy season to just literally go from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And you never, okay, that one didn't work out real good, but that's it. That's the extent of your reflection.
Right.
And it helps you to step back in.
Absolutely. And one of the things I was going to say a while ago around the idea of being, if you like to be in control and you kind of have that tendency, which I think a lot of kind of hard driven people do and will, when you're the person asking the questions, you're controlling the conversation in a way because you're guiding that conversation. And so that's also helpful when you're on this side. Instead of being mad about it and just running somebody over, which could be the tendency of a hard driving person, right? Ask questions because you're still in control of the situation. You're in control of guiding and even follow-up questions like, hey, what was happening here? And they begin to tell you, and you can kind of say, okay, tell me more. Tell me more. Well, why did you choose to do it that way? What were you sensing? And then at some point when their mind is kind of opening up and they're seeing, hey, I think maybe next time let's try this. This would be another way you could do that might be a little bit easier or whatever, right? So anyway, so just be careful that, your desire to please, and I'm a people-pleasing fool. I hate it, and the reason I hate it is because I get myself overloaded all the time because people ask me, can you do this? No. Can you help with that? Do this? And I'm like, yes, I'm going to find a way to make that happen because I want to help and I want to help you. But, be careful that your desire to help, your desire to be liked, and I'm going to rub some people wrong, but that desire to be liked, that's a self-esteem issue. You don't have to be liked by everybody. You don't have to be, and so those desires
and I will
don't
say some people take that to the flip side and they become just the people that are just looking for a fight. And that's not what you're saying.
Absolutely not. There's a good balance in being a confident, productive person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't feel like just everyone that walks by has to be your best friend and like you. That's what I'm talking about. So
of course.
But be careful because your need to fulfill everyone else's yes, I'll help you. Yes, I want you to like me. It can allow it to kind of creep in and, don't fear conflict. Don't, hunt for affirmation so much that you just let people kind of run you over. Don't worry about avoiding awkwardness. The way we avoid awkwardness is, in these hard conversations is private. We kind of pull it to the side and it's just a one-on-one or, 2 or 3-on-1 kind of situation where you chat through something. So just be careful in letting this kind of niceness creep in. maintain really strong communication, boundaries, expectations, and it really does alleviate a lot of that struggle just to be just nice for the sake of nice. And well, go ahead.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is sometimes being nice also you lean into like smaller things that are going good and like look the other way at the big, elephant over here in the corner and like, oh, but this is good, this is good, this is good. And all of a sudden you look up and now that elephant is humongous and
Right.
you've got to do something with it.
I would counter that too and say sometimes the big picture is going well and there's a couple of little small things.
That's so true.
But here's the problems. A small negative or small problem that we're avoiding to be liked can become like a cancer. And what does cancer do? It spreads and grows.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I think you're right, but I think there's kind of two sides to
That's
that.
right.
And so we've got to make sure that we're not, that we're paying attention to the big and the small issues and careful letting what you would consider maybe a simple rule. Maybe you have a rule, be there half an hour early, before your class to teach or, whatever that rule is. And you kind of go, that can be a little gray. And they start showing up 15 minutes late. The next thing you know, they're showing, or not 15 minutes late, but 15 minutes early. And then the next thing they're 5 minutes early. And then the next day they're showing up right on time. You don't let rules slide for convenience or to avoid that conversation.
I think about years past, we had a class that started at 11:30 sharp. Mm-hmm. And that sharp turned into 11:32. 11:33.
You know why? Because I was the
And
guy
then
leading
it
that
was-
class and
No,
I was letting
it
that
wasn't.
happen.
There have been different people leading it.
Absolutely.
And then it actually got to where the class didn't actually start until 11:40. Well, whose time are we actually not respecting? Those people that got there at 11:30, they were the ones that were on
Right.
time because you start and it's just a little slip, a little slip, a little slip. And so then whenever you implement another something, whatever that rule is, well, there's an assumption that
they're not gonna hold us to it.
they're
right?
not. It's not, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes
Absolutely.
there, whatever.
Well, I think the part of the point is it's like small compromises, letting things small slide a little bit, erode culture.
right.
They slide the needle a little bit. There's slippage, and you just kind of slip away, and you look back a year later, and you go, "Oh man, we've slipped a long ways."
That's right.
And you have to zero base, reestablish, and
Yeah,
rebuild.
zero basing is huge.
Where, if you had just held on and not looked to be the nice guy in every particular situation, you might be in a better place a year from now by doing that. So, something you might think about doing is just kind of think through your own life, your own leadership, your own work with your team. And, are there any areas where I'm just, kind of letting my niceness and my desire to be liked, whatever that is, kind of override the standards, And
Yeah,
if
this
there
is
are,
a huge parenting concept because it's real easy to have a rule that we're not going to watch any TV on school nights. And then all of a sudden it becomes into, okay, we'll just watch 30 minutes. Okay, we'll just watch just this one episode.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that completely
And it's tough
flips.
because those little puppy dog guys are going, but can I have 5 more minutes? And you're going, it's just 5 minutes. It's just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, 45 minutes later, you're going, okay, you got to go to bed.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then then the next morning you're going, why am I running around here like a tyrant? Because
They didn't
nothing
get
is
their
laid
rest.
out. They didn't sleep. We were having to tell them, well, where are your shoes? And it's
Absolutely.
it affects everything.
And it's
It does.
all because I just wanted my little kid to think I was nice.
I think I'm the cool mom.
Remember, guys, when we're talking about this, we're not, toughness or firm boundaries, I think feels more correct. Like, is not harshness.
Yeah.
I know I've said it, but, and I had this conversation with someone just like yesterday. It's how you present the correction and the question, like, hey, you idiot, you did that wrong, fix it. Or, hey, this score is great. What were you thinking here? Kind of help me out with that. I just didn't quite understand what was happening.
Do you know what the standard is for this? Well,
Right.
it's that. Well, then, it's this. What do you think what do you think went off?
What was what you were doing fulfilling that standard, and they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't. And sometimes they honestly just don't catch it. They don't realize, and you have to. So anyway, as a leader, you just got to step in there. But what rings in my head right here, and I credit my mom with a lot of just good old school wisdom, but she would tell me firm but fair.
Yeah.
Just always firm, hold your boundaries, never say something out of anger because you're going to have to fulfill that or you're going to lose all your trust. but just be firm, but be fair. And if we're firm, fair, and our leadership is consistent in that way, we'll develop over time great loyalty and trust with your team and your people, right?
Yep.
So make sure your communication stays clear. Fair expectation setting is the antidote to nice leadership. Have clear expectations. And remember, your team will mirror you. So if you kind of are a lay down and you let things slide, then they're going to be a lay down and they're also going to let things slide. So,
and usually on their level, it's like a leap forward in the, because they've seen that. And so then it's not just kind of on that same, I don't have a better word, but same level.
Right.
It actually goes even further. And
right.
then all of a sudden
so
it's like,
in other words, if I let 5 minutes slide, my team's going to let 10 minutes slide.
Absolutely.
Right. So a lot of times it goes, kind of out to the team. It just gets a little worse. Almost like the telephone game. You give a clear instruction, and then by the fourth person down, it's a total different instruction that they're hearing. Like, oh, that's not what I heard. So anyway, just the culture payoff in this is, your students, your staff, your team, they thrive when they know clear boundaries, respect and accountability grow and improve. And you can absolutely be firm and hold your ground without being mean. And you can also care without lowering your standards, right? So,
absolutely.
I think it's just the culture over time will pay you dividends in just that firmness and keeping expectations correct, et cetera. So anyway, lead with integrity, be strong, have good boundaries, have good, clear expectations. We talk about it and we're still working on it. It's like a work in progress. I just recently wrote up an entire testing protocol set of expectations and presented it to the team, and we're working on editing it and clearing it up, and they're giving input on it. But so this is not something we've perfected, but it's something that we're working on all the time.
And I was just thinking about the things just, this year, and here we are, just a few weeks into the year.
Right.
And there's already been some things that were like, this is not new. This is just something we're reminding, because we felt like there was some slip in a few things, nothing bad, but we wanted to get on top of it before it became like
absolutely
something that would really rock the boat.
Rock the boat. And you sometimes don't want to rock the boat. No, you need to rock the boat every now and then. It's good. And zero basing, I know you mentioned it earlier. Zero basing is really powerful. That's where you kind of sit down and go back to just your fundamental foundational standards and kind of measure, like, are we really sticking to these, or have we slid? And sometimes you'll be surprised that when you go back and look at those fundamental things, at how much you've kind of slid in some areas. So just want to encourage you. But the big point of the podcast was, don't be spineless just because you want or need for whatever that's worth to be liked, right?
Yeah. Nice leaders are liked. Think of it like this. A fan is, think of a fan of a sports team. A fan is only a fan until the team, as long as the team is winning. Right. But whenever the team is not winning, then, look to social media for 3 minutes and you find, how much they're like, how
many times they
yeah, like, I changed my mind. I don't like you anymore. And that's the thing. Whenever you're a firm, a respected leader, there is that respect there. Right. And so whenever there is something that, maybe does grate the wrong way, because they respect you, they trust you, and they're loyal to you, despite the fact it's not just a surface level niceness, liking, that sort of thing. It's deeper.
It's deeper. Well, what's kind of ringing in my head is, I can love you and not like you. I know it sounds weird, but I can love you and you can do something to make me mad and not like you for 2 days. You know what I mean? Like, it can happen, but still love you deeply, right? And so I think when we have those firm boundaries, expectations, those things are clear, and we absolutely treat with respect, but earn respect over time. It's more like a love. There are going to be days we're going to rub each other wrong a little bit, and we may not like each other a little bit, and it's okay. But at the end of the day, where we know we're on the same team, we know that we're together. I just taught some leadership with a C-130 squadron at the local Air Force base. And, I mentioned to them, that in this moment, we might disagree about our favorite, sports team or whatever in this group. But if the poop hit the fan and the world went awry, we're all on the same team.
That's right.
At the end of the day. And that's kind of the way I see this. Like, I want to have a team that has a deep level of kind of love and respect, that we don't, and we agree, we don't always have to just like each other. We do, but there are days we rub each other the wrong way, and it's okay,
Yeah, and it just makes it so that those we're not all copy paste of each other, and
That's
it
right.
makes it so that those little things that are different about each of us actually grow make the culture better,
Absolutely.
not be things that you
We're not
leave over.
automatons and clones, you know. And that was by design. Imagine that. God designed us to be unique individuals, and there's never been another one of you, and there never will be. Imagine that.
That's astounding.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you guys like that. Got some nuggets out of it. Let us know what you want to hear about, and review us. Give us some 5 stars if you don't mind, and subscribe, follow, ring the bells, and all those sorts of things. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review, because we need you. We appreciate you so much, and without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success, so go out there and never be outworked.